it's not a sexy disease. I mean, you know, you wish you had that sexy disease, or everyone would be like, oh my goodness, and give you that compassion and empathy, and people look at you sideways like, okay, it hurts. She doesn't hold on to protein. Well, what does that do to her? And does it hurt?
In nephrotic syndrome, what happens is there's damage to the kidneys, and you start leaking protein, and proteins which your body depends on are leaked from the kidney, come in the urine, and are lost to the body.
There's no real cause, there's no real cure.
Probably the most common complaint is swelling.
Swelling of the eyes, swelling of the feet, sometimes it's swelling of the abdomen, but the most common thing is actually swollen eyes.
You know, and to explain that, and then it's sort of this awkwardness of, you know, then where do you go with the conversation? Like, you know, well, is she gonna get better?
So my expectation of an illness is, okay, I'm sick, I get a treatment, and then I'm well, I'm in remission, whatever. With nephrotic syndrome, it doesn't work that way. In my case, I'll most likely, you know, I would have the disease for the rest of my life. I started my first day at Sun Microsystems, and I'm sitting in my boss's office, and I literally think I'm gonna throw up. So I excused myself, got up, walked to the bathroom, and was sick. And by noon on my first day at Sun Microsystems, I was in the ER. My body, I started gaining fluid. I gained 46 pounds of fluid. And it's not like I'm like this. It's like my skin's like saddle leather. And felt like it was gonna split.
I was feeling really sick, like I had the flu. All of a sudden, my body started to retain water. I would sit down and my stomach, almost like I had a floating around my stomach. At one point, I was so swollen, I could barely stand up because it was so painful. My legs were about to explode.
I was 19. I was in my summer school class, and I looked down at my feet. They were bulging out of my penny loafers. Went to the doctor to be told that I was dumping protein in my urine, and was sent to a nephrologist.
So I virtually stopped urinating. It's kind of a irony of the disease. You're massively thirsty, but you can't drink because anything that goes to your body will not come out of your body because your kidneys cease to work. You don't urinate anymore.
When I first found out I had something, I was like, oh, good, I know what I have. I'm just gonna get the treatment and then it'll be done. It's not cancer.
I remember sitting across from the surgeon, and I was like, well, how long is this gonna take? Because I've got finals. And he kind of looked at me and he went, do you realize how sick you are?
What I did not know was the fact that it was a chronic disease.
We're so attuned to like acute situations. Like, you know, you get sick, let's call in the cavalry, the doctors come, they cure you. But nephrotic syndrome is a whole different animal. You're always sick, sometimes less so, sometimes, you know, horribly so.
I thought I was invincible. I mean, I was 19. This can't be happening to me. And the typical, why is this happening to me? Why me? Which I laugh at now. It's like, well, why not you?
Broadly speaking, these conditions arise when your immune system kind of stops functioning normally.
The nature of my disease is my immune system is trying to attack my kidneys.
And so part of our treatment is to try to reset the immune system. Just like if your computer's frozen or doing the wrong thing, you shut it off and turn it back on, you reboot it. With prednisone, which is our most useful drug, we do the same thing. We suppress the immune system and allow it to reboot, hopefully with the nephrotic syndrome going away.
They will respond to prednisone about 80% of the time, and they'll do that within 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, I'm sitting there one night, oh, this is weird, I have to go to the bathroom. And in the next 6 days, I went from 236 pounds down, I believe, 166 pounds. I was like that little fountain in Belgium, that little boy, you know.
So the treatments, unfortunately, while they can be quite effective, do have a lot of side effects.
You know, the side effects of prednisone are legion. I mean, I could go on.
It was like I was a different person.
I just wasn't myself.
I have no control over my emotions.
My emotions, my personality, my mood.
And I remember just by taking that drive to the supermarket, I couldn't get out of the car. I was so jittered.
Just the rage. I had all this rage.
You know, your face gets a sort of a moon shape.
My face blew up. My daughter did not want me to pick her up at school. I was embarrassed to be in public.
But you actually want to eat the bark off of trees. I mean, you could eat anything.
I would go to my doctor, cry. I was like, I don't want to take this medicine anymore.
I've been on this medication for 16 years now.
For all the medicines we use that suppress the immune system, there is a higher risk of infections.
It doesn't take a lot of imagination to think what could happen if you suppress your immune system. Everything's a landmine. If I go around people that have a cough, I literally risk my life, right? Any flare-up of my immune system causes me to go into a relapse. You start to navigate your entire life based on limitations. And I didn't live that way. I lived like, I want to do this, I'll go do it.
Each patient walks their own unique course. The disease can be different from one patient to the next.
I met with somebody at work today, and the first thing they asked me is, how's Christina doing? And it's like, it kind of like brings me back. It's like, yeah, so far so good. We're pushing along. She's healthy. She's lost a ton of weight. She's eating great.
But it's always in the back of my mind. I was like, what's going on? I always check my eyes. When I wake up, like my ankles.
She seems to be one of the lucky few that something has worked.
How do you feel right now, physically?
Very well.
I don't ever feel good. I mean, that's a real tricky thing. I don't know. I get up and I feel sick every day. I feel like I have the flu all the time. But when it's open-ended and you have no idea, it may last the rest of my life. I may always feel this badly. Mentally, it's a very difficult thing. You're always on these drugs, which these drugs always are basically poisoning your system. They're keeping you alive. They do a lot of damage while they do a lot of good.
And it turns out that while we have some medicines that work fairly well, some patients just don't respond.
Well, nothing helped me. Prednisone, Cytoxin, cyclosporin, they didn't help. I was still dumping massive quantities of protein, this, that, and the other. I said, I'm done. I'm not taking any more of these drugs. They're not helping me. They're making me feel terrible. I'll just manage what I can and then wait for my kidneys to fail. The doctor there said, I give your kidneys 2 to 5 years to fail. And they failed in 2.
The worst case scenario, but one that we often have to face, which is if the kidney function continues to decline, going on dialysis or trying to get a kidney transplant.
So I had both my kidneys removed first. They transplanted my dad's kidney into me. Unfortunately, it never, what they call, opened up, so I never started urinating. But then after 3 months, it did come out. And when they took it to path lab, it was infested with the disease.
When it recurs in a transplant is one of the things which is most depressing to me as a physician, because we don't have a cure.
The disease just had attacked it.
And if you do another kidney transplant, it's like a 99% chance that kidney's going to get it, and that kidney's going to fail.
So then I had a cadaver in 97. That was in and out in a year, and the same thing in 2004. And each time, it just attacks it. So I don't urinate because there's no kidneys to process the fluid, therefore into the ureter, into the bladder. So everything that I drink goes into my bloodstream and is cleaned out or removed at dialysis.
So dialysis is what we do when a patient's kidneys do not work anymore. Patients go 3 times a week to a dialysis clinic. Each treatment is 3 to 4 hours long. They are hooked up to a machine. The blood is removed, processed the same way your kidneys would do. So it takes out the bad and puts in the good.
That's my dialyzer. That's the kidney. You can see that, yeah.
And then what we call the clean blood is returned to the patient.
My iPad is my best friend here. And I'm down in my legs now because my arms are finished, done. My veins aren't good anymore up there. I've had women think I was a drug user. You think I asked for all this? No. I'm just surviving.
The good news is that you get better at it. You learn how to modulate your medicines. You learn how to be your own advocate, hopefully. I've known people that they go into these diseases and they think, well, my doctor is going to do this for me.
This is generally a partnership with a physician. You have to be committed to being a partner. You, as a physician, you have to be a good communicator.
Know what medications you're on. No, I mean, you should, and know why you're taking them. You'd be shocked at how many people don't know what they're taking and why they're taking it.
I always encourage my patients to the best of their abilities to keep living their life. So if they're supposed to be going to school, working, raising their family, keep doing those things.
I'm a social worker, usually working with kids that have gone through some kind of abuse. It's very rewarding for me to be there when they need somebody.
I work at Highland Design Group as an office manager / bookkeeper, and I like to make jewelry. I just took up sewing.
I had a job, I was successful at it. I worked at high tech in Silicon Valley.
We've had him on disability for, at least a decade more. And I think it's quite justifiable, but he works in other ways, Raising his kids and trying to stay healthy, that's a full-time job.
You think, gosh, I would love not to be on this world today, but then you go, I've got kids, I have no option.
There were days where it was just like, if this is life, I want no part. No part. I can choose to be angry, I can choose to be depressed, I can choose to be happy too. I choose to be happy. it feels better.
You know, I get to go spend time with my children in a way that I never could have, just from time constraints from work. I'm able to give them more as a sick person than I could have given them, ironically, as a healthy person.
And I keep pushing myself. After getting diagnosed, I ran a half marathon. I'm gonna start training for another one.
I lift weights, I work out.
Because I've been on so much steroids, I continue to take steroids. It's very important that I load bear on my skeletal systems.
It's difficult. I've gone to the gym and I've thrown up at the gym. I'll sit in the parking lot for an hour to get the nerve up to just go in and try to do a workout. But I always do it.
I love to do yoga. It's like my church. That is my church. I really believe it's been kind of not my saving grace, but it sure has helped. It's kind of given me a purpose.
You have to put the oxygen mask first on yourself to take care of others.
I fill my days and my life with things that make me happy.
I go for walks, I play volleyball that I love, make sure that we go away as a family.
I want to do these things, I want to have experiences, so I finagle everything and, get that dialysis in there,
I mean, I get to go into my daughter's room every night and read her stories, and she reads to me, and I go spend 15, 20 minutes at night until she goes to sleep, and every single second with my kids is so precious. I never, ever can phone it in, no matter how sick I am. The will to survive is unbelievable.
I'm living, I'm not gonna kill myself, so I'm gonna make it count.